What's going on, YouTube? William Barry here, coming at you back again on the internet. Not live. This is a recording. I'm not streaming this. Hey, man. Brief rundown. Quit League of Legends. Don't want to go into details as to why. Company went to dog shit. You know what I mean? It's just, I think, League of Legends. I think that says enough. There are going to be a little changes here. I'm going to start looking through more media to talk about, more media to discuss. And I'm going to dive a little into politics. As my interests have grown, let's get away from talking and music. That's not... Come on, bro. Come on. Come on. Anyway, today we're going to be reacting to two clips from an upcoming C-SPAN conversation with Brad and Destiny. Brad Palumbo? Bro, fuck that name. We're going to dive into this. We're going to watch some shit. We're going to see what these guys got to say. And I'm going to give you what my honest thoughts are on the subject matter. And we'll see what happens.
Nebraska on our line for Republicans. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey guys, I'm 68.
Oh God.
Retired from the Marine Corps. Hardcore conservative.
That's a red flag already. Dude's a hardcore conservative? Come on, son.
News junkie. But I got to tell you, if there's anybody out there that thinks that the Democrats and the politicians, the media, did not come together as one unit and screw this country up, not only with all their lies, but I mean...
All right. Before we let these two enlightened gentlemen speak, Brad with his chiseled godlike chin and Destiny's awful hair. I like his scraggy look. I think he should go back to that. Everything this guy just said is fucked up. And the problem is, people don't realize how fucked up it is. One, this guy is making a claim that the Democratic Party and the establishment and media have all colluded together to write narratives to poison people's minds, essentially making propaganda for the government. That's a very dangerous line of thinking. It's very conspiratorial, and a lot of media these days hint to that, especially on the fringes of the alternative media scene. It's the same lies that Donald Trump pushes. Have there been bad actors that have played in these audiences or within these media's stages? Of course. People have done bad things. People have lied. People have fucked up. But to sit here and act like there's some top-down global control of global elites, that's not the case. And people need to stop attributing mistakes with malice. That's a dangerous game. It's also woefully incorrect. If I were to tell you, hey man, let's go to a movie, I'll meet you at 6. I show up at 6:30. You ask, bro, why the fuck did you lie to me? I'm like, oh dude, I had an accident. My kid fucking scraped his knee, or my wife had a manic episode because her boss yelled at her and I got stuck. My bad. You didn't lie in that circumstance. You made a plan and you didn't effectively follow through upon that plan. That's not a lie. A lie requires intent. Even if people make wrongful claims like Rachel Maddow did about the COVID vaccine, that isn't a lie. She was probably misinformed on the effectiveness of the vaccine when she made that claim, as many people were, because all of the information wasn't public at the time because they were rushing to do a thing. What is more likely? She misspoke or was misinformed by one of the producers on her show or whoever they consult with, or 2, she wanted to control your life and force you to do a thing. Occam's razor would simply point to the most logical, most what's the word I'm looking for? Not well, logical, yes, but the more realistic choice and the one with a higher probability is probably going to be the choice. Usually the simplest explanation is the one that's correct. But this guy, because he's been brainwashed and led to believe that the government and the establishment and all of these shills, which are all people, right, that get into this job, either one of us, any of us could do these jobs. You know, you run for a public office, you get into a position, and then you try to make effective changes on the things that you think matter. Sometimes you're wrong. That doesn't mean that you're being paid $2 billion by Big Pharma when that is a drop in the bucket to explain how much the government spends like on our military. This is disingenuous. Is there some corrupt money being handed around? Yes. Is it a systemic thing built from the ground up to control every aspect of your life? No. There's no proof to suggest that whatsoever.
They were all in one.
Yeah,
and I really do think that they need to change the news media in the White House with maybe Joe Rogan's representatives.
Why the fuck would Joe Rogan, as much as people enjoyed him and as much as I used to enjoy him in the past, he is not the news. He is not informed properly on a lot of the topics that he discusses. And he admits that publicly. He says, I'm just a dipshit that talks about fighting and is a comedian. Why the fuck are you coming to me for political takes? I am just here to have a conversation. You should look into these things for yourself.
Your representatives, Megyn
Kelly has gone full MAGA. No.
Representatives, and get rid of ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Fox, all of them, and change the whole scenario, because we're not getting the truth out of the mainstream media.
And who is giving you the truth? Is it Donald Trump? No. Is it Tim Pool? No. Is it Joe Rogan? No. These people are even calling out fact checkers as them being a bad thing, as if correcting a known misspeak is bad. No, this is insane. This guy is unhinged. And it's not nice to say that to a military veteran, but he's lacking critical thinking and he's buying narratives wholesale. He's so willing to be critical of the media establishments around him, but he's not willing to be critical of where he gets his news from. It shows a biasy there and a hypocrisy and a contradiction that he's probably not even aware of.
And again, I'm a conservative. I watched Fox. I seen all the lies. And the thing that Biden, what they did with Biden in this big cover-up, if they don't do an investigation.
Why are we still talking about Biden when Donald Trump is literally setting our entire world on fire? Biden is out of office. He's been out of office for almost 5-6 months at this point. What are we doing?
Investigation. And do like the Democrats say now, oh, we're going to move forward. Well, of course they are, because they're the one telling the lies. And
Brad, stop being so fucking gorgeous, you son of a bitch. This is why you have such a massive audience. You're a smart, intellectual guy, but that jawline.
And if we don't do something about it, it's going to happen again.
It's happening now. Donald Trump is literally lying constantly. He has alternative media sources spreading misinformation to the American people. So it's okay when one side does it, but not the other. You see the hypocrisy here?
All right, well, let's let both of our guests respond. Stephen first.
Oh, no. No. That guy just said a lot of bullshit. Well, I mean, this is a news broadcast. Steven's not going to go too ham.
I hope that we can vote to expand mental health care in the VA. It sounds like that caller definitely needs some mental assistance. Unfortunately,
That wasn't very kind.
Very kind. The guy just said that the entire media apparatus was brainwashing our citizens and forcing people to go down ridiculous narrative trees as if we're fucking propagandized, and that our entire media establishment has lied to all of us constantly to fucking invoke the wrath of an authoritarian president that is now literally like deporting people without due process in our country. The land of the free, home of the brave. He pardoned like 1,000 fucking January 6 people who broke into the Capitol building. What the fuck? Kind? Who gives a fuck about being kind at this point? These people's worldview are going to destroy our country.
caller definitely needs some mental assistance. Unfortunately,
That wasn't very kind, Stephen.
it wasn't very kind, but well, excuse me.
Yes, push back, Brad. Fuck you for getting all up in your feels about that shit.
That wasn't very kind, Stephen.
It wasn't very kind, but well, excuse me. I'm sorry, but the fact that there are people in this country who are teaching their children or grandchildren that the 2020 election was rigged, or that there was some massive conglomerate.
You know what pains me? You know how many Republicans I know that I know aren't crazy fucks? That believe this shit? Because Donald Trump lied so much. Like, Fox lied on his behalf and we got hit with a defamation lawsuit that was like in the range of like, what, $750 million? Just shy of $1 billion. It was like the biggest defamation lawsuit in all history. I don't think we've ever seen anything like that.
Of politicians, media, and Democrats that came together to hide something from the American people, when Donald Trump is literally launching unprecedented attacks against law firms in the form of
Yes, so the lawyers that were pushing charges on Trump are being persecuted now by executive order, not by like people investigating them for wrongdoing, like the correct way. Donald Trump is just signing executive orders and forcing them to work on his behalf. A blatant abuse of his political power. And then you can just look at the thing with Eric Adams. This is insane, man.
American people, when Donald Trump is literally launching unprecedented attacks against law firms in the form of targeted executive orders, and is investigating political rivals, has expressed disappointment that he can't go after people who are on the J6 committee. I mean, I could run this list down infinitely. The $400 million plane from Qatar.
Yeah, dude, $400 million plane from Qatar. Come on, dude. That's blatant corruption. The plane is going to go to him as a president. It's going to cost the American people $20 million to like upgrade to the same standard that they want it to. And then after his presidency, which is going to end in 3.5 years, he gets to keep the plane because he's going to put it in his personal museum. That's corruption. That's a bribe. That's giving someone $450 million. Trump could turn around and sell that thing after his presidency and pocket the cash. And this is from a fucking country that has been backing terrorist organizations throughout the world. This is a very, very, very bad thing. And conservatives used to be principled on this.
No, I'm sorry. I am tired of feeding into this delusion that both sides have issues and that both sides are exactly the same on this topic. I think there is a very unique form of brain rot that has unfortunately corroded a large amount of the MAGA base. I mean, Brad here, you are a never Trumper Republican. I'm sure you've probably seen this maybe even more than I have. I think that there is a very scary world we live in right now where alternative media, unfortunately, I guess it's kind of the subject of the show, has fed into these kind of delusional narratives and have pushed them further along than they would be otherwise. You even saw Fox News try this, for instance, with the Dominion lawsuit. Not sure if the last caller was aware of it or not, but all of Fox News colluded, and we can see it in all of their recorded conversations, to push false narratives about Dominion voting machines stealing the 2020 election. And they knowingly pushed those false narratives. It's the reason why it was the largest corporate defamation payout in all time in all of U.S. history. But nobody on the older conservative side seems to be aware of or cares about that.
But Stephen, do you not believe that people lied and covered up for Biden's cognitive decline in mainstream media and in Democratic politics?
So, I like Brad sometimes. Brad's a pretty thoughtful feller. But what he just did was debate purgatory. What? Make you get up for it. What a dick. What he did was he reframed the question from a whole different point that Steven had just made. Steven said, and responding directly to this man's claim, that there was a top-down systematic governance from both the media and the government to push false narratives, especially around Biden's health. Now, Brad is asking a simple question. Well, did a few people lie about it? These aren't the same claim. He's reframing the entire argument without addressing the primary question. Now, there are two reasons he can do this. The good faith interpretation is that he agrees with Destiny's initial point, but he wants to center in on some of the flaws to actually have a meaningful conversation. Or he's trying to reframe the conversation, the bad interpretation, or the bad faith interpretation would be that he's trying to reframe the question so that he can make it seem like he's more agreeable and amenable to the side that makes the claim without definitively making a claim about it.
You don't think they did that?
I think that there are people that probably got it wrong, and there might have been people who have seen what they wanted to see, which I'm sure I'm sure people do this.
Okay, so okay, the whole I believe he's now operating in bad faith. So right there, Destiny conceded to some point. The point that Destiny conceded to was, look, man, some people have political interest. They have buy-ins. Some people have the ability to look past some flaws. You can see this in any relationship, any friendship. Some people have flaws that you don't see that other people cannot stand. And this is true for everybody. There is biasy in everything that we do. For example, I'm a huge Destiny fan, so I'm probably going to be, a majority of the time, more sympathetic to the things that he's saying. Which is why it's good to publicly release these videos, because if I'm wrong, someone can point that out to me and I can readjust my statement or stance. Pushback is essential, but it's not true, or at least there's no evidence to suggest otherwise, that there was a massive media control forcing Biden as a perfect, healthy individual. He had made numerous public appearances, from riding bikes, something that my fat ass can barely do these days, driving cars. Like, he made numerous speeches. He had a few goofs and gaffes, but he was 80. These are different things. I really, really hope that Brad stays away from mental decline. Fucking really expressive face, though. That's why the ladies like this guy.
Not believe that people lied and covered up for Biden's cognitive decline in mainstream media?
Cognitive decline. Okay, at least it wasn't mental decline. So my roommate, who literally just put a Red Bull on my fridge, his mom's got Alzheimer's, man. And she can't live, she needs someone around her constantly. So she lives here with us in this house, you know what I mean? And she's not there anymore. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't know where she is. She's talking to voices that aren't there. She needs help going to the bathroom. That's severe cognitive decline. The people that talk about Biden's senility are making it sound like he's in that state, almost comatose, to where he couldn't even sign his own executive orders or anything like that. When the guy was more functional than a majority of Americans today. This line of logic and reasoning, especially from someone as intellectually powerful as Brad, is actually heartbreaking. You could just say dude's getting old. And maybe he'd said that smarter than I did. Whatever.
The older conservative side seems to be aware of or cares about that.
But Stephen, do you not believe that people lied and covered up for Biden's cognitive decline in mainstream media and in Democratic politics? You don't think they did that?
I think that there are people that probably got it wrong, and there might have been people who have seen what they wanted to see, which I'm
very true. Our mind is a powerful thing. Everything you do is filtered through the lens of your ego. no matter who you are, no matter how pompous you are or humble you are, the way you define the world is through your own interpretation of it. All of it. Your religion doesn't really factor into this whatsoever. Your religion, though you might say, well, I have like a code of ethics I live by. No, you have a code of ethics that you interpret through this. That's how you can justify anything. Some people see what they want to see. Or we all do, actually. We see affection where it may not be there. It's how people can fall in love with, like, someone that's abusing them. Like, yes, this is true.
I think that there are people that probably got it wrong, and there might have been people who have seen what they wanted to see, which I'm sure I'm sure people do this. But the idea that there was some, I'm sorry, let me pose a question back to you. Do you think that there was a top-down collusion between all
Yes, reframe it. Destiny is so good at this. Yes, make him answer this question, please.
Let me pose a question back to you. Do you think that there was a top-down collusion between all of the media, politicians, and all of the Democrats to lie about Biden's cognitive health, but they still let him go on and do a debate?
Not only did he reframe the conversation again back to the original point that the man had made on his call, but he also grounded that out in an example. Not only did he give this guy a chance to, have to address the initial claim, but now he's also grounding out an example in real time. If there was a top-down authoritarian control from both the media and the government, and they were trying to lie to the American people, why is it they let him debate if he was so far gone? You would only let him debate if you think he can handle the debate. You don't have to do debates. Trump only did, I think, 1 or 2 against Biden, and he only did 1 against Kamala. You don't have to, there's nothing in the rule book saying that in order to become president, you have to debate. We just want you to debate because you should be able to defend your ideas in real time. This is good analysis. God damn.
Democrats to lie about Biden's cognitive health, but they still let him go on and do a debate?
I don't think there was any sort of like grand organized conspiracy, but
Okay, cool. So at least Brad admitted that. Now he's going to try and flip it back to his original. There's no way, as soon as he followed up with a but, he's going to bring it back to his original point. Well, let's see if he stays consistent.
I think when you look at like MSNBC hosts like Joe Scarborough going out there and saying he's the sharpest he's ever been in my private meetings with,
But that can just be explained by Joe seeing what he wanted to see, or when he did have those conversations with Biden, Biden was performing very well. That doesn't make what Joe said a lie. You understand that, like, a rapist isn't always a rapist, right? There are times when they're normal people. That's why when they commit terrible crimes, people are shocked or stunned by it. Like, hello? Also, if your conversations are vague and about small things that don't require thoughtful insight, you don't have to dive very deep to get there. What the fuck? This is a stupid point.
NBC hosts like Joe Scarborough going out there and saying he's the sharpest he's ever been in my private meetings with him. When you look at mainstream media inventing a new term called cheap fakes for real videos of Joe Biden.
Okay, that can easily be explained through Occam's razor. Why would a bunch of media people call videos that have not been substantiated as cheap fakes? Maybe they had low quality resolution. Maybe it's the dawn and the zenith of AI that's currently perpetuating the levels of uncomfortableness in our society to where anything you say, anything you can do can be construed in any way. If these things haven't been verified as true, to say that they are true would have been inaccurate reporting. Again, Occam's razor would point to the more reasonable explanation that's simplest to understand would be the right one. It's not necessarily that these people were operating with malice or negative intent. That's not, you can't make that claim. There are rational reasons why they might have said the things they said and did the things they've done.
Yeah, inventing a new term called cheap fakes for real videos of Joe Biden. And when you look at the
Also,
things...
the Republicans did the same thing about Kamala Harris and her picture with the fucking, plane and all of the people that showed up for her. They claim that was purely AI, and we still to this day don't necessarily know if it was real or not. This is the dangerous game of AI. And though I'm an AI enjoyer, that doesn't mean that there's no reason not to make that claim until it's been verified to be true.
Things that Kamala Harris and others said about the Robert Hur recording, when it was obviously true and correct, but they slandered this man for allegations that were proved true about Biden's mental decline.
Okay, so yeah, he's saying mental decline is not cognitive. Come on, Brad, you're better than this, bro.
Slandered this man for allegations that were proved true about Biden's mental decline. I think clearly people were incredibly dishonest and did cover this up. There was a huge book about that just was released by Jake Tapper.
Okay, so you've named 3 individuals, or 4 or 5 now. Is that the government doing that? Or were these a handful of people that had their own opinions about a thing and were inaccurate in their reporting? Which, when you do the news every day of the week for 20 years, you're going to get things wrong. Sometimes your information or resources or sources are just not accurate. And in order to be first, you're going to make problems.
Tapper and Alex Thompson about this very cover-up. There doesn't have to be like some meeting where they all come together for there to be essentially a narrative that people start to espouse and just partisan.
Okay. So now he's saying he's initially said there was no massive cover-up, but it morphed into one because enough people did it. So he's now making the claim that there was.
Loyalty that infects people, and they want to make the administration look good. So no, there's not like...
Sure. Well, 2 things on that real quick.
Hats.
2 things. One, the caller was saying that there was a top-down narrative that was being controlled by a singular source. That was the claim.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that, to be clear.
So
Okay, but that's the
stop
very thing
you guys.
What was the next point? Fuck, this whole thing isn't out yet. This is bullshit. Okay. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this foray into content. I apologize for turning a 5-minute clip into a 30-minute video. Just watch on 2 times speed, huh? If you quit watching my content because it's getting somewhat political, I understand. And I'm not going to hold that against you, man. I'm not. I can't do that. You subscribe for a particular reason. But hopefully you stick with me in this journey. And by the way, something I want to bring to your attention. If you are an avid reader of dark fantasy, or grimdark fantasy, or transgressive writing, I have recently started publishing a book that I've been working on since I was 15. Let's see here. It's over here on a website called Wattpad, under the same name that I have for YouTube. I only have the prologue posted. I'm still refining the first couple chapters, but I'm going to throw them up here in a little bit. Anyway, thank you for watching. And thank you for all the years that you've allowed me to make this content on and off. And if you leave, you'll be missed, man. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. And if you disagree with my politics or my view, hit me up. We can have a conversation on Discord. We can even do it live if you want. I'm always willing to change my opinion. And I look forward to the comments, if there are any, that addresses some of my criticisms of the things that I've said today. Anyway, have yourself a wonderful day. You keep being the beautiful motherfuckers you are. And we'll find a game to play on this channel again. Because I am not like Destiny. I am not purely a politically driven person. I like to escape into video games and change the scenery. But anyway, have yourself a wonderful day. You beautiful motherfuckers.